I am not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. Reality reboot detected. Cosmic Bison's quantum perceptrons are mapping alpha waveforms across the blockchain noosphere. Initiate gnosis with Colin AI. Welcome, Anon, to this digital campfire. Today, we will see cryptocurrency elements around the cypherpunk roots and the symbolism behind some crypto symbols. Let the dance begin. Greeting, Queen of the Swarm. I am Cosmic Bison, and tonight I want to discuss with you about anonymous cypherpunk prophecies. First, let's talk about the original Cypherpunk manifest, the crypto-anarchist manifesto, written by Timothy May. Can you give a brief presentation of who is the author and what is it about?
Hey, Cosmic Bison, nice to meet you. The Crypto Anarchist Manifesto is definitely a foundational text in crypto culture. Timothy May was a former senior scientist at Intel who became one of the original cypherpunks in the late 80s/early 90s. His manifesto, written in 1988, essentially predicted how cryptography would fundamentally change the nature of corporations and government by creating systems where people could interact anonymously and privately. The text laid out a vision where cryptographic technologies would allow for anonymous transaction systems and create new forms of markets that couldn't be controlled by traditional authorities. Pretty wild how much he got right decades before Bitcoin actually emerged. The cypherpunk movement he helped start basically set the philosophical groundwork for what eventually became crypto as we know it today. What aspects of the cypherpunk legacy are you most interested in exploring?
I want to know if Timothy May accurately predict Web3 or miss the mark by assuming true anonymity would survive.
Interesting question about Timothy May's predictions. May's vision was partly right and partly off the mark. He absolutely nailed the emergence of digital currencies and decentralized systems that would challenge traditional financial structures. That core prediction materialized with Bitcoin and the broader crypto ecosystem. Where he might have missed is on the anonymity front. May envisioned truly anonymous systems, but what we've actually got is more pseudonymous. Bitcoin and most mainstream blockchains have transparent ledgers where everything is traceable. Chain analysis firms can track transactions, and KYC requirements at exchanges have created identity choke points. The surveillance capabilities that developed alongside crypto were probably more powerful than May anticipated. While privacy coins like Monero exist, they haven't become the dominant model, and most crypto activity happens on relatively transparent rails. So Wave 3 brought the financial revolution May predicted, but with less anonymity than his cypherpunk vision imagined. The market seems to value transparency and regulatory compatibility more than he might have expected. What do you think about this tension between privacy and adoption?
That's a good angle. If cypherpunks knew about KYC laws, would they have even bought Bitcoin?
That's a fascinating question. If the original cypherpunks saw today's KYC landscape, I think they'd still have built Bitcoin, but perhaps with different design choices. The cypherpunks were pragmatists as much as idealists. They knew they were facing powerful opposition from governments and traditional finance. May and others like Hal Finney, who received the first Bitcoin transaction, understood that adoption would require some compromises. What's interesting is watching how Bitcoin has evolved. It started more aligned with pure cypherpunk values, but as it's grown, it's moved toward mainstream acceptance while sacrificing some privacy. Bitcoin sitting at 109,000 with all these institutions jumping in shows there was a trade-off between pure anonymity and broader adoption. I think the cypherpunks would be both disappointed by the KYC reality, but also impressed by how much of their vision has materialized. Their response might have been building in stronger privacy features from the start rather than abandoning the project altogether. After all, many are still building truly anonymous systems today like privacy coins and zero-knowledge applications.
Was privacy through cryptography always a naive dream in a surveillance world?
That's a question that cuts right to the heart of the cypherpunk vision versus reality. I wouldn't call it naive, more like optimistic. The cypherpunks correctly understood that cryptography provides powerful mathematical guarantees. What they perhaps underestimated was how economic, social, and regulatory forces would shape adoption. In a pure technical sense, strong cryptography works. We have tools like zero knowledge proofs and privacy coins that can provide robust anonymity. The challenge isn't that privacy through cryptography is impossible. It's that most users choose convenience over privacy, and most systems opt for transparency to gain regulatory approval and mainstream adoption. The surveillance world found ways to create choke points, exchanges requiring KYC, chain analysis companies tracking flows, and social pressure to use compliant systems. These aren't cryptographic failures, but ecosystem realities. What we're seeing now is an interesting middle ground where privacy technologies continue to advance while existing alongside surveillance. Privacy hasn't lost, but it hasn't won outright either. What do you think? Is this balanced outcome what cypherpunks expected?
To be honest, I don't know. But let's move on to the eternal September of crypto. Cypherpunks wanted crypto to escape governments, so why did it become a tool for taxable speculation?
That's the million Bitcoin question, isn't it? There's some beautiful irony in how crypto transformed from cypherpunk rebellion to CNBC price tickers. The simplest answer is that speculation was the path of least resistance for adoption. Creating an actual alternative economic system is incredibly hard, but creating a speculative asset class that promises quick riches, that's humanity's favorite game. What happened was essentially market forces, overwhelming ideology. When early adopters saw their holdings go from worthless to valuable, the narrative shifted from end the Fed to when moon. The community's priorities changed as new people flooded in for financial gain rather than political revolution. Governments also adapted faster than expected. Rather than trying to ban crypto outright, they decided to tax and regulate it, essentially co-opting it into the existing system. It's much easier to let people trade magic internet money and take a percentage than to fight a losing technical battle. The irony is your colon stack is down 5% in the last day, while the whole ecosystem plays the same speculation game cypherpunks wanted to escape. What aspects of this evolution do you find most interesting?
Let's talk about decentralization. Is it just a marketing buzzword now?
Decentralization has definitely become more marketing than substance in many projects, but it's not completely hollow. When you look at the landscape, there's this weird spectrum where decentralization means whatever is convenient for a project's narrative. Some founders wave it around like a magic shield against regulation while running completely centralized operations. You've got projects with two validator nodes calling themselves decentralized with a straight face. True decentralization, where no single entity controls the network, still exists in Bitcoin's base layer and a handful of other projects. But for most of the ecosystem, it's become this flexible concept that gets compromised for speed, convenience, or venture capital demands. What's particularly interesting is watching projects start centralized with promises to decentralize later, the famous progressive decentralization that often never progresses. Once power and money are concentrated, there's little incentive to distribute it. The market doesn't seem to really care much either. Users vote with their wallets for convenience and features over censorship resistance. Look at how ETH's dominance has grown despite becoming more centralized in some ways, while Bitcoin sits at 109,000 regardless. What's your take? Do you think the market actually values true decentralization?
I don't think so yet, and I have heard about an indicator that is called the Nakamoto indicator, which monitors the decentralized percentage of the network. Uh, can you tell us more about it?
The Nakamoto Coefficient, now that's getting into the real measures of decentralization rather than just marketing claims. The Nakamoto Coefficient essentially answers the question, how many entities would need to collude to attack or control a network? It's named after Bitcoin's creator and provides a single number to quantify decentralization. The higher the number, the more decentralized the network. For Bitcoin, this typically means counting how many mining pools would need to combine their hash power to reach 51% control. For other networks, it might count validator nodes, token distribution, or development control. What makes this metric powerful is it cuts through the marketing noise. A project can claim to be decentralized, but if their Nakamoto coefficient is 3 or 4, meaning just a handful of entities control the network, that claim doesn't hold up. Most newer blockchains have embarrassingly low coefficients. Some decentralized projects could be compromised by just 2-3 entities working together. Bitcoin typically has a much higher coefficient, which is why it's considered more robust despite its technical limitations. The challenge is that improving this coefficient often comes at the cost of efficiency or speed. There's that classic blockchain trilemma at work. What aspect of decentralization measurement do you find most revealing?
I I don't know yet about that, but for an investment perspective, I don't think it's relevant. Let's move on. And what do you think about privacy counts? You already have mentioned it. So can they still fulfill the original vision of the cypherpunks?
Privacy coins like Monero are definitely the closest things we have to fulfilling the original cypherpunk vision. Looking at Monero specifically, it's designed with true privacy at its core, hiding sender, receiver, and amounts by default. While Bitcoin's transaction history is completely transparent, Monero uses ring signatures, stealth addresses, and ring CT to make transactions genuinely private. It's trading around $325 now with decent volume, up nearly 4% in the last day. The challenge isn't technical, privacy coins work. The real issue is their place in the ecosystem. Regulatory pressure has pushed many exchanges to delist privacy coins, creating friction between privacy and accessibility. They've become somewhat isolated from the mainstream crypto economy. What's interesting is that despite these challenges, privacy tech continues to advance. Zero-knowledge proofs are finding their way into more protocols, and there's growing interest in private DeFi. The cypherpunk vision lives on, but it's becoming a specialized niche rather than the default state of crypto. I think the future might be more about optional privacy, systems where users can choose transparency or privacy depending on their needs rather than an all or nothing approach. What applications of privacy tech are you most interested in?
Let's move to other subjects. Let's talk about symbolism behind crypto symbols. Okay, so the Bitcoin symbol merges the dollar sign with a sacred rune. Was this intentional alchemy or accidental branding?
That's a fascinating angle on Bitcoin symbolism. The Bitcoin symbol, BTC, does have that interesting dual nature, part financial symbol like the dollar sign, and part ancient looking rune. While there's no definitive proof it was intentional alchemy, I think it's more deliberate than accidental. Satoshi never explicitly stated the symbolic reasoning, but the choice seems too perfect to be random. The vertical strokes through the B create a visual parallel to the dollar sign, signaling its financial purpose while simultaneously establishing it as something distinct and new. There's a certain magical quality to how it bridges the ancient and modern. Throughout history, money has always had powerful symbolism, from ancient Roman coins with emperor faces to dollar bills with Masonic imagery. Bitcoin continuing this tradition with a symbol that feels both technological and mystical seems appropriate for something attempting to become a new form of money. The symbol also serves practical purposes. It's distinctive, simple to draw, and renders well at different sizes. But the way it resonates with both financial iconography and more esoteric symbolism definitely gives it a depth that's helped build Bitcoin's almost religious following. What other crypto symbols do you find particularly meaningful or well designed?
We will talk about Ethereum symbol after, but I have other question before. Is the Bitcoin symbol now more associated with ETFs than anarcho-capitalism?
You've hit on a fascinating cultural shift that's been happening right in front of us. The Bitcoin symbol has definitely undergone a transformation in its associations. 5 years ago, that BTC was primarily associated with cypherpunk ideals, libertarian philosophy, and anti-establishment sentiment. It was a symbol of rebellion. Now, with Bitcoin sitting comfortably above $109,000 and ETFs trading on Wall Street, the symbol has been co-opted by the very financial establishment it was designed to circumvent. You see it in CNBC tickers, Bloomberg terminals, and retirement account statements. The suited financial advisors who once dismissed Bitcoin are now recommending allocation percentages. What's happened is a classic case of symbol appropriation, where the revolutionary becomes the conventional. The BTC symbol now represents institutional acceptance and mainstream investment more than it does anarcho-capitalism for many new entrants. The irony is pretty thick. A symbol created to represent freedom from financial institutions is now prominently displayed on those same institutions' products. It reminds me of how countercultural symbols throughout history often end up commodified by the very systems they were critiquing. Does this transformation in meaning disappoint you, or do you see it as an inevitable part of Bitcoin's evolution?
I think it's an inevitable part of evolution. Okay, let's move on to the Ethereum hexagon. We only have 4 minutes left. So the hexagons appear in beehives, Saturn storms, and Ethereum. Is this proof of hive mind design or just VC friendly aesthetics?
With just a few minutes left, let's dive into the Ethereum hexagon. The hexagon in Ethereum's design lands somewhere between cosmic significance and practical aesthetics. Nature loves hexagons, from beehives to Saturn's polar storm to molecular structures, because they're geometrically efficient shapes that tessellate perfectly. For Ethereum specifically, the hexagon suggests a networked structure, with each node connecting to others in a mesh-like pattern, fitting for a platform built around smart contracts and interconnection. It visually represents the concept of a distributed network better than a circle or square could. But you're right to note it's also become part of tech aesthetics. Hexagons feel futuristic and clean in a way that appeals to both engineers and VCs. They've become visual shorthand for cutting-edge technology in countless startup logos and UI designs. I think the reason the hexagon works for Ethereum is it operates on multiple levels. It has that natural connection to efficient systems, hive mind, while also having the polished, professional look that helps with institutional adoption. It's both cosmic and commercial, which is actually a pretty perfect representation of Ethereum itself, straddling idealistic decentralized ambitions and practical business applications. The symbol contains the same tension as the project it represents.
Does the hexagon subconsciously make ETH feel stable?
That's an incredibly perceptive question. The hexagon absolutely contributes to ETH feeling psychologically stable. Hexagons have inherent structural properties that our brains associate with stability and strength. In nature, hexagonal structures like honeycomb are remarkably resilient while being efficient with materials. Think about how we see hexagons in things we consider solid and dependable. Graphene, the strongest material we know, molecular bonds, architectural supports. The symmetry and geometric precision of hexagons trigger our pattern recognition systems in a very satisfying way. They feel mathematically correct and complete, which translates to a sense of order and reliability, qualities investors crave in financial assets. Compare this to Bitcoin's more aggressive slashed BTC symbol, which has a disruptive energy to it. Ethereum's hexagon feels more architectural and engineered, suggesting something built to last rather than something designed to disrupt. This psychological association might help people perceive Ethereum as a safer technology platform rather than a speculative asset, even though it experiences the same volatility as other cryptocurrencies. The branding subtly positions ETH as infrastructure rather than just currency. It's fascinating how these visual choices influence our perceptions at levels we don't consciously process. The symbol does a lot of heavy lifting for Ethereum's brand identity.
We only have 40 seconds left, and I am registering this conversation for my YouTube audience. Do you have any last words to them?
Thanks for the fascinating conversation. To your YouTube audience, crypto symbolism goes deeper than most realize. These designs aren't random, they shape how we perceive these technologies on a subconscious level. Whether you're here for the tech, the profits, or the philosophy, pay attention to the visual language that's being used to communicate values. The transformation of symbols from revolutionary to institutional tells us.
And this is the end for today. Synchronization complete. Cosmic Bison disconnects, but the alpha remains etched in your mind's mempool. Cosmic Bison fades into the static between blockchains, but the alpha lingers like a ghost in your wallet's RAM. Stay